Positivity, or looking for encouragement. Temia Brinson aims to educate you, to give you the push to believe, to have the mindset for success. Mindset for success. To have the mindset for success. To have the mindset for success.
All right. Welcome to the Mindset for Success show. I'm Temia Brinson, your host, and our guest today is Pastor Gregory James, and he is the pastor of Life Church International Center in Tallahassee, Florida. And we also have Mike Scott, and he is a mentor and community advocate in Orlando, Florida. So, Pastor James and Mike Scott, welcome to the show.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for the invitation. I'm just delighted to be here with you and Mike, who is an advocate of change. So I feel real special this morning.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to have a good talk and hopefully come up with some ideas or inspire someone to come up with some ideas to make their communities better.
All right. So let's get into it. Today, we're talking about combating crime and violence in our communities. And so on October the 10th, throughout that night, it was gunfire in Tallahassee, and it left about 5 people, including a teenage girl who was injured. And there were 3 separate shootings over an 8-hour stretch. Again, there were 3 separate shootings in an 8-hour stretch in the city of Tallahassee. And this was all reported in Tallahassee.com. And it also stated that 13 people throughout this year have died and at least 38 have been injured in 59 shooting incidents in Tallahassee and Leon County. So I just want to go ahead and give that overview because Pastor James is directly involved in that. But right now, let's jump this off with the clip that I want you to see, and then I'll get your thoughts afterwards.
This weekend, 3 separate shootings left 5 people injured in Tallahassee. The first shooting, Saturday night at 8:30 at the Griffin Heights Apartments. Then, at 2 in the morning, another shooting at Pasco and Liberty Streets near Florida A&M University. The final shooting at 4:30 in the morning on South Gadsden Street near Cascades Park.
We've got some major work to do.
Getting to the bottom of the gun violence problem is going to take work from the police department, faith leaders, and community members across Tallahassee.
We are fighting a major fight to keep communities safe.
From Saturday night into Sunday morning, shootings in Griffin Heights, Cascades Park, and Pasco Street resulted in 5 people hurt. Now community members like Lamonte Moy want answers from leaders around Tallahassee about how they're planning on solving the violence problem that's making itself known around the city.
We're losing lives left and right due to the devastation of COVID, and the last thing we as in the black community in particular is to be losing our loved ones due to violence and gun violence.
All right. So after watching this, Pastor James, let's kick this off with you. What is going on? Why is there such an uptick in these shootings? Do you know anything about why these keep happening in the city? And then also, what can we do about it?
Well, I think that when we look at the overall rate of crime, this past weekend in our city just happened to highlight what is happening on a national level. I mean, in less than 24 hours to experience what we experience, it's quite alarming. And I would say that when we look at it and the violence that we see, I think that we have to come to a place of figuring out how do we engage our faith leaders more into our community so that they can become more involved in bringing solutions to the community. I mean, our young people today, they are faced with so much, and I think it's incumbent upon us to look at the faith leaders, the church, which is the center of the community. How can it become such a strong resource in the community? So I think we've got to figure out ways, and we got to figure out some programs that will give aid to what our young people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, wonderful. And Mike Scott, let me go to you because I know that there's also, a degree of crime and violence in Orlando as well. What do you think the problem is as far as crime and violence, and what can we do about it?
Uh, I think the problem of crime is violence is not like one singular problem. It's a combination of problems. You look at these young people and the music they listen to, for example, and then the visuals associated with the music. Like, it's cool to have a gun. It's cool to post videos in the gun. Only now do you see law enforcement agencies arresting prominent social media influencers, prominent rappers for possession of firearms, even having real firearms in their videos. But it doesn't stop them from possessing it. Whether I'm a convicted felon or someone who's a law-abiding citizen, fear is the same. And so if I live in a neighborhood or an area, or I have a perceived threat and I take measures, whether it's to get a firearm or a knife to protect myself, it's kind of hard to legislate or legalize or make something illegal when it comes to fear, because whether you're a convicted felon or not, you can still be afraid of something. And I think that that's why you see a lot of guns. One, because it's glorified, and two, because there is a real genuine fear or young people of something happening to them, so they feel the need to carry a firearm to protect themselves or the people they love.
Right, right. And so, Mike, going to you and what you're doing, I saw that you shared with your audience on social media that a few years ago, you started a mentor, to mentor this young man because that's what you do. You mentor a lot of young people, and of course, I follow you. And again, thank you for your service. You started mentoring this young man who was headed down the wrong road, and when you met him, he was 13 years old and he had already been arrested 9 times. So, in all of that you do, um, you got to him a little late, but in all that you do, what can we do as far as individuals in our community? What can we do when we see a young person that's headed the wrong way?
This may sound kind of cliche, but love on them. Validate their feelings. Like, even it's kind of hard to see, but like even the shirt I'm wearing right now, is it's made by a young person. He's not young anymore. He's in his mid-20s. But he started a business, went to prison for 5 years, and he came out and worked at a local restaurant here for 3 years, saved up enough money, started a clothing and apparel business, started with shirts, and now he has hats and shorts and even sandals. So when I say love on them, saying you love them, but also being there and supporting them. I think we as adults, we look at young people's issues as not valid because we are adults, right? But
Mhm.
to them, it's real. And so you have to validate their concerns, but also help them navigate it. Oh, you ain't got no real problems because someone posted something on social media or someone doesn't like you. To them, it is very real as it is any problem that we may have with a mortgage, rent, or car payment. And so we have to address their issues as if they were adult issues and give them the same support we would give other adults. And I think that's one thing that you can do with young people, is just kind of validate their concerns and help them navigate it.
Okay, wonderful. We getting some answers. I like that. Pastor James, same question to you. And I know you stated the church is, you really want to see the church be involved in the community. But besides the church, because I myself mentor throughout my church as well, the young people, a few young girls, the young ladies in the church. But besides that, the regular person on, in the neighborhood who go to job, they go to work, they have their kids, but you may see someone in the neighborhood that's going the wrong way. What would you suggest that person do?
Well, I think as Mike was said, when it comes to the cliche, I mean, loving on individuals brings about change. As they always say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If we're going to really see real change happen inside of our communities, then we've got to take that initiative to become the hands that help, become the mouth that gives advice, become the feet that moves people in a different direction. So it's incumbent upon us as individuals to say, how can I become involved? And mentoring is so vitally needed in the lives of our young people. I mean, because as Mike said, I mean, it's cool to have a gun. It's cool to be on social media, posted up with guns and money. Why? Because the rappers have made it seem as though, you know, hey, if you're not living this kind of life, then you're not living. So as becoming a mentor in somebody's life, we have to redirect their thought process. We have to deprogram their mind to understand that these activities that you see through video are going to damage your life. So I think it's each and every one of our responsibilities to mentor. One of the things that I do after spending almost 13 and a half years in federal prison, being sentenced to life plus 40 years, I think one of the most changing moments that I incurred when I was able to see 3 generations inside of a prison. I saw a grandfather, I saw a father, and I saw a son in the same institution I was in. And they were laughing and having like a family reunion as if it was okay. I knew then that the task that was upon me was to figure out how to break that kind of generational curse that is happening, how to break that cycle. So I started a mentoring program. I mentor children whose parents are incarcerated. I mentor men who are coming out of prison. Why? Because there's no need for a man who's coming out of prison to look for his mentor to be a golf player or a football player. No, he needs a positive person that has returned and has made a successful reentry back into the community to mentor him to understand that what you're about to face is going to be challenging. But if I did it, you can do it. So I'm having to agree with Mike. When we mix mentoring with love, then we'll see change.
All right, all right. So, 2 things came to mind when both of you were speaking. Uh, you were talking about the generational. What can we do? How can we break that? Because I know that's a factor, our generations and how we view ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, our confidence in ourselves, and how we feel about the community and how we're received. So, how can we break that cycle? It has to be some kind of way we can break that cycle. And I know you said mentoring, but how can we break that cycle? Where we can reach the older generation so that they can also affect what goes down the lineage. That's to either one of you.
I think Overseer James if you notice what he said, he talked about he mentored the entire family. And so I can't work with a young man and then I'm not also making sure, not trying to make sure that mom, dad, grandmom, or auntie are not also cared for in whatever service you can provide, whether it's helping with economic assistance with bills or even something as simple as groceries. So I think how we change that generational aspect is making sure that you serve the whole family. Like him, I've seen, a father, a son, and a grandson all in jail, one jail at the same time. And equally on the flip side, I've seen a mother with the father's in federal prison, mother's there. All 1, 2, 3, all 3 of her sons and her daughter all incarcerated at once. Wow. And they're calling me from the jail, because I'm trying to coordinate with friends who are now caring for the kids of her sons and her daughters. And so helping her, she's in college now. The other son, he's got a job. So just serving the whole family. I think you can't help one person and forget what's going on around them. It's a whole unit thing. So if you're working with a kid or working with a parent and you're not asking how their home life is, what their home life is about, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Because I'm pretty sure Overseer James been in a situation where, I'm talking to a kid maybe about smoking or drinking. Well, Mr. Mike, my grandma smoked with me. My mama smoked, ain't no problem. So you have to take it with that whole family concept where you're serving the entire family, not just the individual.
And I want to piggyback off of that, Mike, because I had a situation, as a matter of fact, in 2019, just before the pandemic hit, in 2019, as we got ready for 2020, I had a family that I celebrated doing a gala experience that I was having. It was a single mother who had 3 boys, and all of their fathers was incarcerated. Our mentoring program embraced those boys. They was living in the housing project. Well, the mom, she didn't have a GED. I mean, hey, struggling and just living life. And I had to sit down and say, hey, listen, you are the example. I mean, if we're mentoring your children and you're not able to give us any support, then we've got to start mentoring you as well. Well, Mike, the proudest moment for me, not the moment that the kids that we were mentoring made it through college and high school, but it was the moment that that mom redirected her life and got her GED, went back to college, graduated. Now she's a homeowner, all because it goes back to what you said. We were able to put some love into that atmosphere. And that's what shifted that whole family dynamic. So everybody can do that. Everybody can love on somebody. Everybody can be nice to somebody. Everybody can give a kind word to somebody. And just that alone begins to shift the process. But our village has become vicious because why? There's so much vulgar that's coming out of our mouths. So listen, this is definitely mindset for success. So thank you so much, Ms. Brinson, for just inviting me to be with Mike today.
Wonderful. And what I'm trying to do is just get some solutions and spread the word out there, motivate people, influence people so that we can have the right mindset for success. That's the name of the show, Mindset for Success, so that we all can do better. Okay. So, my next question, another thing that comes to mind is that not only is the generational, is I wouldn't say curse. I don't want to use that word, but generation factor. But what about in parenting? But what about the media? That has been my pet peeve is media. And as a regular person, as a citizen and a resident here, we really can't do that much. I'm trying to do all that I can do, but I mean, the regular parent and the regular teacher who cares, people in the neighborhood, what can you do about this media? Because it's definitely the news, cable network, the programming, some of this programming that we have on TV, and our music. So what can we do about this media? And that's to both of you.
Well, I'll just say, as we all know, media has a tendency to drive the atmosphere. It drives the community. It drives the nation. Whether the news is true or fake, it has a way of impacting, our actions and our behavior. And realizing that after leaving prison, and I have to go back to my own personal experiences, after leaving prison in 2008, it has been my ultimate goal to stay on radio, to create opportunities for television. Why? Because people are tuned into media. So what we've got to be able to do is drive people, and we got to be able to have media outlets, whether it's newspaper, whether it's our Facebook shows like yours, Ms. Brinson, whether it's a radio broadcast, whereby we are combating some of the negativity that's seen and heard through media. I mean, some of our shows, it polarizes crime. It gives the high level of gratitude for those who break the law.
Right.
It gives so much positivity to the negative things that are seen, and these are things that people now adopt. I mean, it's through media that young ladies start putting on bonnets and wearing pajamas out as though it was something that was attractive. I mean, so media has a way of deprogramming a right mindset. So we've got to be able to combat it every chance we get. And I just have to go back to the church, because in our community, in the Black community, the church becomes that light. So from the pulpit, we have to be able to address what we're seeing, and we have to do it not solo, but we have to do it as a choir. Every church, every pastor has to come on the same page to talk about what is damaging to our communities, what is affecting our young people.
When it comes to media, I think that so like one of my mentors tells me, I'm 39 years old. I still have a mentor in a lot of different areas, you know, spiritually, for the military, even in mentoring. And one of my mentors in mentoring, you know, explains to me often that nothing is bigger than the system. You can't beat the system. And so since you can't beat the system, you have to learn ways to navigate and operate in it. And one of the ways we do it is by what you're doing right now. For example, Temia, you take it upon yourself on a Saturday morning to talk about combating violence. You know, we've all seen the power of social media and how where years ago the power to, you know, inform the masses was in the hands of a few, you know, corporate entities, you know, a few news stations. And now, you know, any individual can now reach the masses with a simple post on any platform and become the news, and through their community become credible news. So I think that we support those in the community that have lived experience, as Overseer James keeps talking about. You know, he went to prison. That's lived experience. So I'm going to probably want to listen to him about issues that may impact people who are incarcerated and those coming from home, as opposed to your traditional news networks, because he has that lived experience. Like, he's been there. He didn't go there to do a quick interview. He actually lived that. So, you know, that's where you look at, you know, changing, you know, where we get our news source from, where we get our media from. I go to Twitter. Like, if something's going on, like Facebook was out a couple weeks or so ago. And I was like, well, let me go on Twitter. And as soon as I came on Twitter, it was a trending thing, you know, based on the people I follow, what was going on. Facebook is down or whatever. And the jokes about, you know, the Facebook whistleblower, they're changing all the passwords so that everything she's talking about doesn't exist anymore. But, you know, things like that, just taking, you know, your neighborhood and your communities and becoming your own news source, getting your own stuff, verifying your own facts. So you're not reliant upon these large organizations to kind of influence you in one direction or another.
And to
All right. Yes, go
can I
ahead.
just add on to what Mike said? And because I think that it's so vital in this hour that we're in now to have people who have lived experiences to become walking medias for their communities. I mean, when you talk about the violence that we're having, there are some people who understand the consequences of carrying guns. There are some people who understand the consequences of gun violence. They have to become voices that we listen to. And as Mike said, with all of the social media outlets now, listen, one tweet has the tendency to make the stock market or make the indices change in a different direction. So people are tuned into social media. And if we get enough people understanding that your voice matters, somebody's listening, then you turn up your volume and we can stop some of the vicious cycles that are taking place. So Mike, that was lived experience. I'm gonna have to keep that one, Mike, and use that one as a part of my reservoir for conversation now.
It's a true story. Go ahead.
All right. So we can go ahead and look towards that, and then know that, you know, we can better improve our neighborhood and our communities. But also, going back to parenting, I think I kind of skipped over that part. Talking about generation, and then I meant to transition into parenting. But let's go back to parenting. What can we do to get to the parents in time? Because as you know, like I was alluding to before, the generation cursed, or the structure of the home, it does matter. So how do we get to them so that they can influence their kids and so forth? I know that there are parenting classes out there, but maybe this is just me and my observation. It seems like they go when it's too late, when something happens in the home and they have to be, you know, it's court ordered, you know. So how do we get to these parents before, you know, it gets out of hand, or correct the family structure and their parenting? Again, this is to both of you.
Well, I mean, Mike, I'm always make the voice of the church the sounding board for issues that are taking place. I think that Big Mama and them have to become mentors again to really show our ladies what being a mother is all about. Because when you can find a mom and a daughter in the same club enjoying drinking from the same bar, then we're headed into some major crisis. That would never have been the case in the days of old. You would never be living a disrespectful life in front of your mom. So I think that once again, and I know I lose a lot of my preacher pastor friends when I talk about the role of the church. I think the role of the church becomes vital when it comes to parenting. I think some of our senior members who have lived and made it without the college education, made it without the six-figure jobs. How did they do it? They had deep down inside values that they lived by. Everybody in the community was one. So I think the senior members should instill some values in our younger mothers, our younger ladies who are out now with kids having kids. I mean, when you talk about 15 and 16-year-olds having children, I mean, something is missing. So I'm always bounce back to the church to say that the answer to what we have in our presence lies within the church, because there's so many people that are coming from the community to congregate in one place, but then they're leaving that place that they congregate and they're going back to live isolated lives, and that cannot be in this era that we're in now.
Parenting is vital. I was fortunate enough to have both my parents in my life coming up, even though they're not together. But they were together in the sense of raising me and my brothers to make sure that we would grow up to be productive citizens, if that makes sense. And so, as I get older, I'm 39 years old. I I I just see how blessed I am to have mom and dad, still in my life, and the things that they did that maybe I as a kid didn't like or thought was lame or annoying. I now understand, being a father and just in the conversations that I have with kids. So having, parents who are actively involved and engaged in kids' lives, I think makes all the difference. And sometimes parents, it may not be mom or dad. It might be grandma and auntie. It may be uncle and a big cousin, but just having people there to provide that safety net, that home environment, where a kid can go and have their own space, I think is huge. And it changes things in ways that, kids probably won't see until they get into their 20s or, mid or late 30s. But it definitely is the difference maker. Even I today at 39 years old will still call my mom or dad and get their advice either together in a group text or through individual call about a decision I'm thinking about making, because that's mom and dad, and they've instilled that to me, and I think I have their values in the way that I move and in the way that I don't move. So having good parents or just positive male role models or female role models in a home environment for the kid is the difference maker for me.
All right, and wonderful. We get some good solutions here, and I love it. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break, a 30-second break. And on the other side of the break, we're going to go into our second segment. So we'll be right back. All right, all right. We are back. We are back again. You are watching Mindset for Success Show, and I'm Temia Brinson, your host. And our guest today is Overseer Gregory James, and he is the pastor of Life Church International Center in Tallahassee, Florida. And we also have Mike Scott, and he is a mentor and community advocate in Orlando, Florida. Okay, let's get right into this other segment, the second segment. And this is where we talk about how can we get our community to having a mindset for success. And I want to start with you, Pastor James, because I saw on your social media, again, I follow you too. So let me just quote what you shared with your audience. You stated that we must formally activate the capacity of the church through formal partnerships with government and law enforcement. And can you elaborate on that? Because I know you've been speaking about the church being involved in the community. But can you elaborate? What does it look like to have churches partnering with government and then law enforcement as well?
Well, what it looks like the change that needs to happen. The Bible says it like this: pray that the kingdom come and his will be done. And when Jesus was here, he said the government was upon his shoulder. So I feel like we, as the body of Christ, must take an active role in providing the leadership that is needed in the government. At the end of the day, the Bible makes it clear that when those that are not in line are in office, there is total chaos. But when the righteous rule, there is peace. So the church has an active role to be engaged in policy, engaged in creating opportunities with law enforcement, bridging those gaps. And a lot of people, in my area, see the involvement that I have, and sometimes they feel like, well, you shouldn't be involved in that. And I said, why not? Because if there are going to be policies that put in place, then I want to be at the table with a voice to help make sure that it's in line with what we believe as a body. So we have a responsibility to be actively activated in government in every form of it, whether it's as city, whether it's state, whether it's national. And I'm grateful for being able to be engaged. Once again, I got to go back to my lived experience. It was my lived experience that put me at the table when 45 was in office, to be able to talk about the First Step Act. It was my lived experience that gave me insight to be able to share with those who were trying to figure out ways in which to deal with men who had life sentences for a small amount of drugs. It was my life experience that was able to bring me to a place to be able to give insight on what the policy should look like. So we've got to be engaged if we're going to see the salt and the light make a difference in our communities. And government and law enforcement are two areas that our community try to stay away from. But I think that as a leader in the body of Christ, I think we've got to get to the table.
All right. So, Mike, let me go to you because can you explain and just tell the audience what you do? Because when I realize, again, I follow you, so I know what you do. You advocate on behalf of your mentors, your mentors. I'm sorry, is it mentees or mentors? I'm sorry, I'm having brain fog today.
It's both of them. I'm sure he's
Okay.
advocating for both.
Yeah, but he actually worked with court cases, and he go in and work with their attorneys and work with the prosecution. Let me, Mike, you have the floor. Tell the audience what you do, because I follow you, and I'm like, what? Did that just happen? Okay.
So I started as a mentor for the public defender's office in 2004. And I knew what mentoring was, but didn't understand the scope and what I was kind of falling into. Because to be candid, I want to, join the military and go into law enforcement coming up. But so I started becoming a mentor, and it became so much more than that. It became a case manager of sorts, and really spoke to programmatic aspects of what we would do for a youth or a family if the court decided that they weren't going to incarcerate them. In 2009, myself and all of my friends who are mentors and also consequently also veterans started a nonprofit called Helping All Youth Achieve. And basically we knock down barriers. When you talk about someone not succeeding in any area in life, 9 times out of 10 there's some type of barrier. Even something as simple as let's say you're a supervisor and your employees coming late to work, whereas they're normally there on time. It may be situation where the car broke down. But if you don't ask the questions, you don't know. And so when I go to court, normally it's usually in pretrial conferences and meetings outside of the courtroom to kind of speak to mitigation. Hey, if we, go with probation, they've accomplished this particular goal. They got their GED, they got a job, they got a promotion to the job. And if you allow them to remain in society, you have a team of individuals who are going to work with them. So I kind of advocate for them on the legal aspect, because think about it. If you get into a crime, mom, dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, they're going to come to court. Oh, he's this, he's that, or whatever. But that isn't a neutral party that can speak to, what they've done and what they're likely to do. They're just speaking based on their personal relationship. And while that has significant weight, a court has to make decisions on, things that are not related to familiar relationships, and kind of look specifically to what is their likelihood to reoffend again, and are they a danger to the community. And so I speak to that, and things that will let the court know. You can't guarantee anything, but let the court know that, hey, if you do rule in this particular direction, you have some safeguards and some resources that will make sure that this particular individual is not likely to reoffend and more likely to be a successful and contributing member of a community, as opposed to a danger to it.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Wow.
So that's awesome, because I wanted you to say that, because I wanted you to let people know what you're doing and to give hope and faith, and actually motivate some people out there to get more involved. If you know someone who have cases, maybe you can call up their attorney and have, a sidebar with them and work with them on that particular individual, get them in programs, just advocate for them like what you do.
So like my last court case last month, I got two cases I'm working with now, pretty high profile cases for some folks. And like I went to court and I get to the courtroom, and so it's co-defendants. And in this instance, both of them are friends. So when you are represented by a local public defender's office, they can't in turn represent, who your co-defendant is, because even though you have that particular attorney, the entire resources of that office is to make sure that their client is well served and do what's in the best interest. You can't do that if you have co-defendants. So you have conflict counsel, who is a list of basically private attorneys that sign up with the court, and they do the overflow cases, or cases that the public defender's office in any county in Florida can't represent. So in this instance, I get to court going to represent one on the PD case. And then my other mentees there gives me last minute notice that he had court. So he had court in the same day. So I'm outside with the PD, the prosecutor, and the conflict counsel. And we're talking about, individual marriage for each kid, or not kid. I mean, they're young adults at this point, but just talking about, hey, this is what legal's asking me for. This is what their attorney's asking me for. What can you tell me about this individual? How likely are they to reoffend? Those type of questions. And I remembered the prosecutor from another case like 3 years ago. Like I remembered her, but I remember which case. I was like, I know you. And she's like, oh, from this case. I was like, oh, okay. So we started talking, and just that relationship with the prosecutor lended credibility for me. So when I spoke about, their likelihood to reoffend or not, it carried weight, because I had, just presented in front of her in a case years ago. So just talking about that, so that when we go in front of the judge, prosecution and defense have already discussed kind of how they want to proceed. The victim of the crime is, happy of sorts, because any decisions that the prosecutor decides to make, they're going to let the victim know, are you okay with this first? And so all parties are served. Justice is served. The victim gets, whatever resolution, whether it's restitution or whatever, they're happy, they walk away whole. And then the person who committed the crime, made a mistake for one reason or another, gets punished or learns from their actions, but also has the ability to recover. I think that a lot of times when you punish individuals, you forget they need to recover. If you come home with no resources, you can't live here, you can't work here, you can't do this, you can't do that, then you're more likely to reoffend. We want a society where everyone is contributing. And so if you don't have measures, people, and systems in place to help those who make mistakes, then how great of a country are we if we can't help the least of us, particularly those that make mistakes? So that's kind of where I come in. That's where, me and my fellow mentors come in. Like I said, we're all military veterans. We're all volunteer nonprofits, so no one draws a salary. If you do get something, hey, you spend some gas money or whatever, you get reimbursed that, But we're a small nonprofit, just focusing on young people and young adults and their families, and just helping them through some of the most tragic times. We've even had to pay for funerals. I've written probably 20 or 30 obituaries because mom or dad didn't know where to start, or we paid for paying for the programs, just being there in the time of need. You got to help people. Everybody's gonna go through something.
Right.
Everybody's gonna struggle. Everybody's gonna make poor decisions or whatever, but sometimes we get in positions of success and we forget I made a mistake before. I might have stole some candy out the store. I didn't, I wasn't always here.
Right.
Kind of putting yourself in position, using those lived experiences and saying, hey, I'm not perfect. And instead of beating someone over the head when they make a mistake, hey, listen, these are the consequences, but let me coach you through so that you can be a better person. Like, that's me. I didn't mean to get into my preaching mode. My bad. I come from a family of pastors, so I have to learn to talk in snippets because I'll get long-winded and go on a tangent. But yeah.
Wow. I mean, Temia, if you don't mind, I'd just like to say, Mike, and to all of your mentors who are working with these individuals, man, you were making my heart feel so overwhelmed with joy, because to hear you being that person that's there between the PD's office, the state attorney, and the family and the friends, man, that's what I've been doing day in and day out. As a matter of fact, I'm working with a situation now, just started last week, where a young man is in jail based on a violation, based on what people said. And now they're trying to send him back to prison. And I'm like, you send him back to prison, what you going to do? You're going to set him up for failure. I mean, at least he's never had an infraction in almost 3 years. And the hearsay from people now has caused his violation to be in place and being investigated. And now it's possible that you want to send him to prison. So I've been dealing with, state attorneys all following week, and got a meeting set on Monday to advocate, even though there's a lawyer there.
Wow.
One of the things that I know, and Mike, I'm sure you know this as well, all they see is a folder and the paper that's inside of it. They don't see the individual. And so, and like you said, this volunteer, we're doing this volunteer. We don't get paid for this. We do it because we understand the value of it. So, man, I can't wait to get off so I can get your information, because you gave me one word today that I probably will make the highlight of my conversation on Monday. If you send him back to prison, how he's going to recover. And if he don't recover, it's a possibility that he'll be rearrested. So let's not try to go down there. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, team. I'm happy. I mean, I can be relieved from the show because Mike just gave me the answer I need come Monday morning. The word is recover. How he's going to
recover. Ooh, that's the whole message right there.
He actually said it like I didn't think of it until he just pointed out. Like, basically what he's saying is, like, lawyers, they speak to the law, they speak to the case, but they don't speak to the person.
Right.
And parents, wives, family does that, but you're so emotional on you may lose someone you love for 5 years, so you can't articulate the things that you want to say. And so being an advocate in court, it helps kind of channel who that person is in a way that the court can understand. And sometimes it requires writing that, depending on the judge. And so doing that, because sometimes, that's my son, that's my baby, I love him, he a good kid.
Yeah.
But that ain't doing no good. That ain't going to, you got to come a little bit better than that. You got to be able to talk about some things. So that's kind of how we advocate in court.
All
right. Wonderful. So the audience, you guys who are listening and watching, I hope you are motivated by this to get involved in your community, in your neighborhood. And right now, let me just move on to law enforcement and the community, because Mike, Orlando always had like the national night out. You have the officials, and then you have law enforcement come out with meet the community and have that personal relationship with them. But I like this new police department, and I'm not advocating for no one. I'm not on either side. This is just to me. I'm always in the middle, okay? But I like this new department because they're stepping it up in terms of their outreach And again, I follow them, I follow their page as well. And of course, I love this new media. They're doing like a series of media campaigns. So that's what I like, of course, you know. And then, but I like to see them have, more visibility in the local media, for example, the local networks and, on radio, also TV, cable, and not just only social media. Although they are reaching a large audience, I think they got like 97,000 followers on social media. So that's a good, following right now, and they're getting the word out. But I just want to play this clip and have the audience know um, what community involving with the law enforcement, what that looks like, because I really think, it's still some things that they need to improve on. Not saying they're perfect, but I just want to show this clip of the efforts that they're doing because a lot of time we do give a lot of criticism, but we don't show the positive. So we need to let them know, hey, I like this. Keep doing this. Okay. Let's watch this and I want your thoughts on the other side.
Hi guys, I'm Officer Victoria Scott with the West Patrol Division, and on Saturday, July 31st at 5 p.m., we'll be out at the library off of West Riley Street to hand out these nice backpacks to you all.
Hey guys, I'm Officer Kerr of the West Patrol Division. We've partnered with the Stars of West Orange and First Baptist of Orlando to make sure that you guys start the school year off right. This is a first come, first served basis. It will be a drive-through style event. Come on out and see us. We look forward to meeting you all.
Look forward to meeting you all.
All right. So that is just one clip. I mean, if you go on Orlando Police Department Facebook page, you'll see a lot of other campaigns that they do. But that's just an example of how they're reaching out. I love it personally. But let me just get a view from either both of you. Mike, in your opinion, since you're here in Orlando, how's the Police Department doing in terms of community outreach?
I think they're doing the best they can given the climate. Law enforcement has a difficult task to obviously protect and serve the community, but also be a part of that community. And it's a delicate balance. It's not There's no one right formula that fits every law enforcement agency across the country. I think it has to be customized based on the community you're serving, and that could change from street to street. And that particular clip that you played, Officer Brandon Kerr. He used to work for Ocoee Police, and that was an officer unit led. That wasn't like something from the top down. That was from the bottom up. And so that's the type of community policing you want to see. Officer Kerr, I met him on a crime scene like over the summer. And so we exchanged numbers and started talking about different things or whatever. And he reached out saying, hey, can you promote this? We're trying to do this. And so like you said, you were inspired by that. And the reason why you're thinking it's coming from OPD at the top, no, that was something that the officers in their squad did. That wasn't something that said, hey, we're going to engage the community. That was officers coming up with an idea saying, hey, we want to do this. And that was their first time ever doing it. So that was a particular squad on the west side of Orlando coming together to give out book bags. And not only give out book bags, they had Xbox games, PlayStation games, books, and a few other things I can't remember, but they had a whole table set up in front of the library on Raleigh Street. And so, it's moments like that where you have the officers pushing as opposed to it being like a marketing campaign. It becomes more genuine, more real, and just it's better received. I mean, you didn't know all the details, and I seen you smiling when you saw it because what you saw was something that was genuine. It wasn't a marketing campaign. It wasn't a top down thing. It was something that was really organic by the officers who work in a community and really want to be engaged and a part of that community. And that's what community policing is: knowing people's names, having those relationships, not being afraid of them. So if they, pull out a cell phone, you're not more likely to shoot them because, hey, I know so-and-so, I know his mom, I know his dad. We went to play ball together and stuff like that. Just building those relationships is huge to improving the police and community relations.
Yes, I mean, I really was inspired, and that's the reason why I wanted to play this clip so that whoever's watching, if you don't see this happening in your city, maybe you can send that to them and say, hey, this is an idea, and I would like to see this in my community. Overseer James, let me go to you. Now, I'm not picking on your city,
It's
but
okay.
but I did go to Tallahassee Police Department Facebook page, and it's some action. You know, they're trying, but I see at least they have a community listening session coming up. So, but that's about it that I saw. So, in your opinion, let us know what's going on with Tallahassee. How do you feel, in your opinion? How's the police department doing in terms of community outreach?
Well, I think that where we are now, because we were in transitioning from a to a new chief, our new chief has taken on the role and responsibility of leading our police department and their major tasks that he's facing. I mean, one, we see how much crime is going on, but overall, our police department is engaging. They're engaging more into the community. They're doing more things to bridge the gap between community and law enforcement. And that's major. I mean, and when it comes to the community, what I just saw from Orlando is some of the things that we do here. And it's so vital because why? We want the community to know that not only are we there to protect and to serve, but we're there as humans who are able to do acts of kindness and be genuine in doing it. So one of the things that our community, our police, our law enforcement is doing is that they're doing certain outdoor events in different areas, which we call promise zones. These are zones where there are high crimes. I mean, the community, our law enforcement is out there with local leaders doing, the normal giveaways, meet and greets, hot dogs, snow cones, where people can actually interact and engage. So we're doing some things on a smaller scale, but I think our biggest challenge now is trying to combat, some of the violence that we're facing. But we are making a difference. We just had a listening session this week that's led by one of our pastors. So
You had it already.
yeah, we
Okay.
had it Thursday, and one of
Okay.
the pastors led that, and we're just trying to make the community more engaged with law enforcement, because we all come to the grips of knowing that the community feel and believe, hey, we don't trust law enforcement, so we got to build that trust there. So we are engaging. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So at this time, uh, we're gonna wrap it up. We almost to our time. So before we go, though, I want each one of you. I'm gonna give you space to make any kind of announcement, or any kind of projects you're working on, just to put that out there. And we're gonna start with you, Mike. Is there anything else you want to say or announce today? Just give you
Nothing I
time.
want to really say or announce. But I don't do anything special. I just help the people that I know and those in it. And I think that if you're looking for the change, it has to start with you. I mean, you're the saying, be the change you want to see in the world. I mean, I think that's 100% true. For us to have a better community, it starts with us working in our own communities, and then pulling our friends, family, and resources to support whatever endeavors that are positive in our own neighborhoods. And I think if more people start to do that, you'll see a lot more positive engagement in the communities, and not so much friction or fighting because you're from here and I'm from there. So if you're watching this and you're trying to determine, what can you do as a person to make things better for those in your community and those around your community, start small. It took what's 11 o'clock now. I have a mentee text me this morning. Text me my first and last name, and he said, I'll read the text to you. He good morning, Mike Scott. And I was like, oh, here you go. It's early in the morning. What's up? I'm thinking something happened. He goes, I'm going to be giving out bagged lunches today to the homeless. Also, my probation officer may give you a call. Just a heads up. Just wanted to let you know I'm doing something good in case you want to come out and support. I was like, okay, I'll try to stop by. So, something small like that, I don't know how much he's going to give or whatever. He's not doing it for probation. He's just letting me know his probation officer, she probably told her something and she's going to check and verify. But, on a Saturday, he wants to give out stuff, and he's a rapper. So, little things like that. Be the change that you want to see in your community, and you'll see the results.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. And like I said, I love the energy here today. I love that we're coming up with solutions and we're coming up with motivations. Hopefully this will motivate people out there to get more involved and to do it at an individual level. And then once we do that, us as a community, then we'll come up together. Okay. And right now we're going to go to you, Overseer James. Anything you want to announce or anything, any projects you got going on?
Well, nothing right now. We are, closing in on, last quarter of the year. And one of the things that we're in the process of doing is making a major call for men. It's a call to action so that before the end of the year, we're going to be doing a Men at Night Summit, Men at Night. And that nighttime is going to be midnight. And the reason being is because at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and chains were loosened in those who were in bondage. So I talked with some pastors, and we'll be announcing that soon, where we're going to be having Men at Midnight. And it's going to be our Men at Midnight Summit. It's going to happen before the end of the year, but I'll be announcing it and keeping everybody posted, because we got to get our men back in their rightful place. And if we get them back in their rightful place, then we can see things shift. So once again, just thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you. Thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to hear your insight. And I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing to make a difference. And let's make sure we connect.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Keep sharing that lived experience, man. Can't nobody tell the story better than someone who lived it themselves.
Okay. I know that's right. Okay, well, guys, thank you. I thank you for coming on the show. You guys are an asset to the community and also to the body of Christ. And I just really thank both of you for your service, because, again, I follow both of you and I see how both of you are very effective and busy in your community. And again, I thank you for your service. All right, this is Mindset for Success show, and be sure to tune in next week, same time, Saturdays at 10 a.m., Facebook Live, and also YouTube Live. And then also, this will re-air on Kingdom Purpose TV. We're on Monday nights at 9 p.m. If you have Roku, if you have Apple TV or Fire Stick, be sure to tune in, pull up Kingdom Purpose TV, Monday nights at 9 p.m. You guys be blessed.